Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Thursday. I hope the day is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you as always for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I tell you what, I'm pretty sure your morning is going better than mine at the moment. I'm having absolute broadband nightmares at my house at the moment for the last 48 hours or so. Spent more time on the phone to my broadband providers than speaking to my wife, I would probably say. And I'm still no closer to having it resolved. In fact, I'm looking like I'm going to have to cancel and try and find another broadband provider because it can't continue. And so this is going to be a bit of a different show. There's going to be no slides or anything like this. I'm having to record it on QuickTime and then trying to upload it. So it's not going to look as pretty as usual, apart from my face, obviously. And I don't really know how long this is going to be ongoing for, unfortunately, because there are some serious issues that feel like it's going to take a while to get resolved. So you might have to grin and bear it for the next couple of weeks or so. I am supposed to be recording the Arsenal press pass later, but I have no idea how that's going to even happen with James Benge, who I was supposed to be recording extra time with yesterday, but wasn't able to do it. So with him and Simon Collins, but I'm not sure if that's going to be able to happen at the moment. I'm going to try, but I don't really see how. Anyway, enough of me moaning, because it feels like it's all I've done on this channel for the last couple of weeks, because pretty much everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. But let's look on the bright side, shall we? And we should, because it's been a good week for Arsenal. They've won in the Champions League. They won well at the weekend in the Premier League, and they've got a huge game against Manchester City coming up on Sunday. Mikel Arteta is speaking tomorrow at his pre-match press conference at London Colney. I'll be heading over for that one. He should be in good mood, I would imagine, after the win in midweek in the Champions League. And it's a huge game this Sunday. Of course, it is absolutely huge game between, well, take Liverpool out of it, the other two main title rivals, you would say, this season in the Premier League, certainly in terms of what the bookies and the odds would say, and it'd be a really big opportunity for Arsenal to lay down a marker at the early stage of the season. They are still chasing Liverpool, of course, 3 points behind, but if they could go and beat Manchester City on the weekend, and then that's 5 games of this really tricky start to the season that Arsenal would have had out of the way. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to start today, though, by talking about Cristhian Mosquera. Now, I spoke about him yesterday after the game in Bilbao because it was such a fantastic performance from him, brilliant performance from him over there, and it's been a brilliant start to his life as an Arsenal player, and he's getting lots of flowers at the moment from pretty much all angles, and deservedly so, because of his performances. I was reading what Martin Keown was saying after him. Martin obviously knows a thing or two about defenders, and he said he's in the same DNA as Saliba and Gabriel. This fella is mobile, he's quick, he's strong. There's a lot more to come, and he's put in some really good performances. And during Timber was speaking after the game in midweek in Bilbao, and he said he's done amazing. He's still so young, but the way he comes in, it looks so easy for him. He's winning his duels and on the ball as well. It's great to have him next to me. He has a bright future. Now, William Saliba was an unused substitute, of course, in midweek. He's been struggling with this injury that he picked up against Liverpool. Hasn't played since then, but did travel to Bilbao and was an unused sub. He's been training since the end of last week. This is a big decision facing Mikel Arteta, because Mosquera's been nothing short of brilliant since he's come in. He's been faultless, basically. He's not put a foot wrong since he's come into the team. £13 million, absolute bargain. He's an absolute bargain. And I said it yesterday, I don't want to get too carried away, because you never know. You know, it is a start. He's riding the crest of a wave at the moment. There'll be difficult times ahead. I'm sure he'll make a mistake at some point. He might get punished for that. And then people are going to start sort of looking at him, saying, oh, he's a bit inexperienced, all that sort of stuff. But that's all part of being a defender. It's going to happen. Of course it is. But you look at his stats from the game on Tuesday night. So impressive. He was 8 aerial duels in that game, which put him ranked 1 in the game. Aerial duels 1 was 5. Duels altogether 13. That was 4th best in the game. Duels 1, 7. Clearances 6. Passes 79. Equal best of anyone in the game. Successful passes 75. Again, number 1 ranked in any of the game. And this is just, you know, he's still a kid. He's still very young. He's not that inexperienced because he's played a lot with Valencia, obviously. But you look, and I said this again yesterday, you look at all the business Arsenal did in the summer transfer window. So much business, so many big names signed in, so much money spent. That £13 million that they've spent to sign Cristhian Mosquera at the moment, looks like the best £13 million that they've spent in a long, long time. It looks like an absolute bargain. In the days of transfer fees now and what players cost and all that sort of stuff, this early signs, of course, but it looks like a real triumph of Andrea Berta knowing the market, taking a market opportunity, a triumph of scouting, of being sure that he can cope with the Premier League. And there is, like I said, a big decision. I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think Mikel Arteta should do this weekend. Do you think, if Saliba's deemed 100% fit, which he would have trained all week, do you bring Saliba in alongside Gabriel, or do you play Cristhian Mosquera alongside Gabriel for the game against Man City? Please do let me know your thoughts on that. I have to say, and I haven't changed my opinion on this, I would still play Saliba. As good as Mosquera's been, I would still play Saliba. And that might seem harsh on Mosquera because people will say, look, it's his shirt to lose at the moment. And look, if he does decide to play Cristhian Mosquera, I'm not going to complain about it. I will absolutely understand his reasons. In many ways, I'll be like, well, fair play. That's showing everyone. It's showing the squad. It doesn't matter who you're sort of replacing in the team here. If you're playing well, you're going to stay in the team. So it would send out a good signal to the rest of the squad. So I wouldn't complain about it at all. But I still feel, just because it's Man City, just because it's Erling Haaland, and Erling Haaland bang in form, by the way, that we know that partnership of Saliba-Gabriel can play Haaland very, very well and can really rile up Haaland and stop him performing. And I think if there's any other team against any other striker, I'd be like, you know what, just play Mosquera to show Saliba that he has to fight his way back into the team. But just because it's City and Haaland, I would favour Saliba over that. And it's no slant against Mosquera at all, because as I said, I just think he's been absolutely brilliant. It's been the signing of the summer in many ways for Arsenal, and just looks to be a wonderful, wonderful piece of business and an absolute bargain. So do let me know your thoughts on that. What would you do this weekend against Man City? Saliba, Mosquera? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I'm sure you would have seen the pictures yesterday. Arsenal did have their squad picture shoot at London Colney yesterday. Some interesting bits and pieces from it. Max Dowman is there. He is officially part of the first team squad, which is just remarkable. 15-year-old kid in the first team squad photo. Is, I think we've all kind of been wondering, is he fully a sort of full-term member of the first team squad now? Well, I think that debate, that question has been put to bed by the fact that he is in the picture, which is pretty incredible to have a player of that age in the picture. Other notable things, because Mikel hasn't really revealed the full leadership group for this season, but when you look at the picture and you've got Mikel in the middle, obviously in the front row, then he's flanked by Odegaard, the captain, Bukayo Saka, who you would think is absolutely number 2 in terms of vice-captains now, and then either side of Saka and Odegaard, you've got Gabriel and Rice. So for me, that feels very much like the leadership team, even though Mikel hasn't announced it yet. So Saka, Odegaard, Gabriel and Declan Rice. And you've obviously got players like Gabriel Jesus is still there. He was part of the old leadership team as well. And when you look through that squad and look at that picture, what really strikes me, and some people have mentioned this to me on social media before, I'm just looking at it right now on the other side of the screen, there isn't a single player in that squad picture that if he was in the starting 11, you'd be like, oh no, he's not good enough at all. What are we doing? Shouldn't be at this club. Loads of times before, there's been players in the squad that you've thought that. But now you look at that picture, the whole way through it, it is just so, so strong and so impressive and so well built. And, that's really, really pleasing as an Arsenal fan. Obviously, it really, really is. And sort of looking ahead to that Man City game as well, we touched on the Saliba and Mosquera, who should be starting in that position. I think what he does out wide as well, I think personally you stick with Madueke and Eze. That would be my choice. You have Gyökeres, Madueke, Eze. Obviously that's unless Bukayo Saka is fit and all that, which at the moment we don't know, but we're not expecting him to be fit, certainly by Mikel's comments pre-match. Anyway, so I'd be sticking with Madueke and Eze, but obviously the subs came on and made a huge difference in midweek, and Trossard now's got 2 assists and a goal in the last 2 appearances. Martinelli came on and did what he did in midweek. So there is an argument, I suppose, should they be starting this weekend? Eze didn't play very well against I've forgotten who we were playing at midweek. Athletic Club. Eze didn't play fantastically well in that game. It's coming for a little bit of criticism. Martinelli comes on, scores, assists. Does he start the game? I wouldn't do that. I'd still leave him as the finishers, as Mikel called him, and bring him on again if needed in the second half. I think the midfield's going to be interesting. We'll wait and see what Mikel says about Martin Odegaard tomorrow. If Odegaard doesn't make it, what do you do in that midfield position? Again, I'm fully expecting, and I know lots of people will want to see a different midfield three than we saw in Spain, the Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard midfield. But I'm fully expecting him to stick with that midfield. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't, if Odegaard isn't fit. Would it be what I would go for? No, I wouldn't. I'd like to see Ethan Nwaneri play in that game, even against someone like Manchester City. But I think the writing is on the wall in terms of what midfield he will go for in that game. I think it'll be very much the same as we saw in Spain. But let me know your thoughts. Give me your starting 11s already. Let's really start to prepare for this game against Man City at the weekend. Give me your starting 11s. Who do you want to see if Odegaard's not fit? If Saka is not fit, which we expect him not to be, what are your starting 11s for the game? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Right, I do have a couple of questions here that I'm going to talk about before I wrap this one up today. I've got one from Phil Parker, who got in touch on YouTube, and he said, "Hi Charles, we've played 5 games now, 3 away and 2 at home. There is a contrast between how we play away versus how we play at home. Our away games have not been pleasing on the eye, regardless of the result. Do you think there is a deliberate strategy of being conservative away until such a time when the team fully bonds and is able to impose itself on any team, home or away?" And that's from Phil Parker. I don't know. I don't think it's something that's sort of being done by design, but I just think you have to take into account the away games Arsenal have played. They're so far away from home this season. They've gone to Old Trafford, they've gone to Anfield, and they've gone to Athletic Bilbao in the first game of a Champions League campaign. They are 3 very, very difficult away games to start the season. So I'm not really overly surprised that their performances there have not been as good and as fluent, as attacking as 2 home games against Leeds United and Nottingham Forest. So I don't think it's anything by design. I think just by being away, obviously you have to be a bit more careful, especially in the first half an hour of games, because you're the away team. The other team are going to be up for it. They've got the home support on their back. So I think you look at any team across any league across the world and you look at the difference between their home performances and away performance, they're always going to be that bit more dominant away from home. At home than they are away from home, especially if the away games are very difficult ones like Arsenal have had. So no, I don't really think it's a design. Do I think Arsenal will get better away from home and start to perform better away from home, play better and produce more attacking performances? I do, yes, and I think that will come when you get Saka back in the team, you get Odegaard back in the team, of course, even when you've got Havertz as an option, and as Arsenal begin to get more and more used to playing with each other with new signings. So I do think we'll see more dominant performances away from home, but I think there's a very sort of simple reason for why right now Arsenal's performances are better at the Emirates than they have been on the road when you look at the places that they have visited. I've got one from Femi here who says, "Refreshing to hear you go back to the correct Eze pronunciation. Honestly, this is so difficult because I was speaking in a week, someone flagged me up on it saying, why are you calling him Eze and not Eza? There's a TikTok going around from Crystal Palace when the players pronounce their own names and he pronounced it Eze, so that's what you should be calling it. And I watched that TikTok and I was like, well, that's right. That's from his own mouth. Is he saying that? But then as soon as I did that, I had people on my Discord saying, no, you got it right the first time. And they were telling me about the sort of Nigerian descent of how the exact pronunciation and what it all means and what sort of, I think it was the Igbo pronunciation, and it should be Eze. That's the correct way of saying it. The only reason he says Eze is because of his accent and all that sort of stuff. So it's so hard to get my head around. I've actually sent a message to someone at Arsenal. I'm trying to get it from his own mouth. It's like, how do you want me to say your name? I haven't had an answer back yet. But when I do, I think I'm just going to definitively go with that, because if I ask Eze himself and he tells me exactly how it's pronounced, I think I'm just going to go from that, because at the moment I seem to be flip-flopping from one to the other. It's Eze or Eza, and it's just like floating around in my head. I don't really know the exact answer to it. But you say, but anyway, Femi says, do you think people often view games from the lens of a result? Yes, I absolutely do. I mean, if you play well, it's a great game. If you lose, then you were not at your best. Yeah, that was right. If you're not at your best. Arsenal won 2-0 and people still think they were not at their best. What does this best even mean? To smash teams to pieces? This is a Champions League, which means you face top clubs from across Europe. So if Arsenal beat Madrid 1-0 in a tight game, does that mean they were not at their best? Is a team's best affected by the result quality of the opponent? I'd like to know your thoughts. I think people absolutely do view results by... I think the classic example of this was Arsenal-Liverpool the other day, or Liverpool-Arsenal the other day. Liverpool got that goal. They got a free kick with 5 minutes to go. And then suddenly they were viewed as by far and away the best team and they deserved to win. They attacked Arsenal more than Arsenal attacked them. And the narrative that game created, which just blew my mind, because what I saw there was just as even a game as you're ever going to get. Even Slot said it afterwards and he said it perfectly. You play that game 10 times, we draw 8, we win 1, Arsenal win 1. It was perfectly summed up by Slot. And yet the sort of narrative after the game was Arsenal were dreadful, they didn't attack, they were boring, blah, 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 when they played exactly the same way as Liverpool, basically. Created more, actually, had more attacking. All the stats pointed to they were the ones who had more of the ball and more of the touches in the opposition box, all that sort of stuff. But on the face of it, it was just a really even game that was decided by a worldy goal. And yet because of the result, because of that one goal at the end, Liverpool were viewed as being basically a masterclass. And Arsenal just didn't attack properly. So I absolutely do. I do think now football analysis is so based on result and nothing else, which it really kind of annoys me a little bit. And even the game against Bilbao in midweek, I was just so surprised at some of the negativity towards that. It was a fantastic result for Arsenal. And a really good away performance in Europe, where you go, you're tight, you're defensively excellent. You might not play your sparkling best going forward, but you can't always do that. But you just defend really, really well at a really intense ground. You grind them down, you stay in the game, and then bang, your quality shines through at the end, and you win the game 2-0. It's just a fantastic result for Arsenal and performance. But just because it wasn't this sparkling attacking display where they were ripping teams to shreds and all things, it just feels like that's what... If Arsenal don't do that now, it feels like they've just not been good enough. And it's like, I don't know. I don't see football that way. I see football and there's many ways to win a game and there's many ways to play well and to win a game. And I just feel they should have got so much more credit than they did for the game in midweek, because I just thought it was a fantastic result. And I thought they played really, really well in many ways. In a sort of that's like the definition of a good away win in Europe, was what they did and how they performed. And they got the job done. Mikel was delighted about it afterwards, and I'm not surprised. So yes, in answer to your question, I just think results, the way a game pans out now, it's all viewed a little bit too black and white for me in terms of how that result was achieved. I think you need to look at it a little bit more and give teams a lot more credit at times for the way they do these results. And I thought midweek was a prime example of that. And anyway, that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Apologies, you've only had to look at my face the whole way through this. You've not had any slides to take your attention away from this, but needs must and all that. I am struggling at the moment, but hopefully in the not too distant future, I will be back to normal. So have a good one, everyone. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.